I know CC, and that's about it.
Or like the Amish say, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, yeah, they do have a little run of it, don't they? Where we left the story off last time, David had just conquered and had all the nations around him paying him tribute. They didn't have many to fight at that point in time. And we start out in 2 Samuel 11. And of course, it's titled David and Bathsheba. You all know that story. Instead of going out to war, David stayed home. That was unusual for David. David usually went out, and the king was supposed to go out. He kind of shirked his duty. He was supposed to go out and lead them in battle. Amorites. Rabbah is the name of the city they sieged, if I can spit it out correctly. And David got bored. Imagine that. Man of war, be bored. At home, by himself, none of his warring friends. They're all gone. And he went up on top of the roof and walked around. We all know this story. He saw a beautiful woman bathing on the roof. I don't know if that was a common practice or not, but bathing. And her name is Bathsheba. He sent someone to her. And her husband was Uriah? Yeah, Uriah. And David sent someone for her. And he knew that she was married. He knew who she was married to. But he wanted the woman. And they had relations there. And later she sent David, I'm pregnant. And David could have stopped right there and said, God, forgive me. I'll make the best of this I can. Show me what to do. But he didn't. He didn't either see it as a sin in his eyes because he was a king and he deserved anything he wanted. Was he overwhelmed by his kingdom? Anybody got any thoughts on that? Why didn't he stop right there as soon as he knew she was a wife of one of his soldiers? David always, when he went to battle, he always asked God, are you going to give this city to me? Are you going to give these people to me? And what do I do? And God would tell him, okay, no, don't take them on forward. You go around back. And he always won. But did he ask about his personal life very much? I don't know. Yeah, he was king. He could have whatever he wanted. He had several wives and several concubines by this time. Yeah. He should have asked. What do I do about this woman, God? Because my eyes have a lust for her. Can I have her or not? Ask. Yeah. It wasn't later, I think he should have brought it to God. A lot of times we fail to take something to God immediately. Confess. And at the point even she was pregnant, would it not have been better with God just to say, I confess and we'll take care of it? Yeah, probably would have. He probably wouldn't have went through so many things with his sons and everything. So it's probably a good lesson to us to step back right at the beginning. Even if you've sinned, you need to confess that sin to God. Yes, this is pretty.
Even if it's a small sin, it still leads that same path.
Mm-hmm.
You have to not just confess the big sins, but even the little ones.
Yeah. Yes. And he just kept digging a hole. He just kept digging a hole, because then he called for her husband, brought him back from the war, tried to get him to go home and stay with her so it could be his child in his eyes. And no, he slept out with the servants out by the front gate. And he found him there, and he goes, hey. Then he says, stay another day, and he gets him good and sour drunk. Thinks he'll go home and do what he should do for him, and it didn't happen. So, I'd say he had quite the thing to send a letter with him to tell his commander, Joab, to have him killed, basically. And then when he did do it, he put him out front, but there was some of the other men died. David wasn't happy about that. He thought he could just kill him. He killed others. So his sin widened considerably. And well, he could have got killed, yes. Yes, and they were pretty careful about the way they fought. Just like they kind of picked their battles, because this city, the way they won this city was, as Joab said, I've taken their water supply. I fought a battle and took their water supply away from them. I don't know what exactly that meant, but we don't last long without water. It was scarce, and a lot of the towns were built where there was a well, or there was a river there nearby where they could divert some underneath the castle and have some water, because they knew that you don't last long without water. Yeah, at Jerusalem, I think, if I remember right, has something, well, it's built right next to the rivers, and they did such a thing with it. I think I've seen it where they showed how they got down to the water and got it on something I've watched. I don't remember what that was on, but I remember them showing it going down in. It had to go a long ways down in, but yeah, because that was something they had to have. They could store a lot of food, but they couldn't store water for long, long periods of time. Let's see, and she mourned what they guessed about maybe a year. They guessed. But she did her mourning period. And then she came to the palace and he married her. In the Old Testament, you'll notice they marry close relatives sometimes. In fact, the Israelites married their own relatives instead of marrying outside the clan. So we will see in here in a few minutes. But Nathan comes to David. And he tells him, 2 men in a certain town, one rich and one poor. One has a sheep, wasn't it? A small sheep? Yeah. And the other one has a herd. and the one had a traveler stop, and he didn't want to kill one of his, so he just went over. He was right next to him. He went over and grabbed his lamb and killed it, fed him. And David, just anger was burned over what this has happened. And Nathan said, you are the rich man. You did that. Kind of rings home for him. It goes, Doug, I've sinned. And Nathan says there's one prophecy he does bring out, that the sword will never depart from his house. And some believe it was about his sons. David had a lot of sons. He had a lot of women. And also Nathan said that the child will die. Bathsheba's child will die. And he put on sackcloth. The child was struck ill real quick. And he put on sackcloth and wouldn't eat, wouldn't do anything until the child died. And then his servants asked him, well, you've got dressed and you're all cleaned up and you're all good now. Why did you, what happened? The child's dead. He says, I was hoping God would relent and not do this if I did that. So, he's sinned against the Lord. And sins have consequences. Even though he was forgiven for the sin, it says in here. But consequences. He lost a child. And you look at the strife that was in his house between his sons wanting to take over. It'd be a big thing to be king. And, okay, I have my book. And his servant said, he's seen him. Yeah, we won't bother with the servants. Yeah, but he went in and slept with Bathsheba almost immediately afterwards, and she became pregnant with the king that will be. We don't know that at that time, but that will be the king. Okay. Then, that's about the time that his head of his army, Joab, said he'd taken the water supply. But he told David, if you don't come with the rest of the more men, I'm going to take the glory for it. So David rounded up some more men and headed his way, and they went and plundered the city. David took a lot of plunder, and he did every one of the cities that way. They went through and probably conquered all their fortified cities. Oh, yeah. Amnon, I think that's Amnon, and Tamar. Amnon was actually David's first child. And he liked this sister of Abison. I know I can spit this out. Abison? Oh, not spitting it out this morning. Absalom. Huh? Yeah, Absalom. That's what I'm trying to spit out this morning. Yeah. Anyway, Absalom. And he had a beautiful sister, this Tamar. And I don't know if Absalom seen he was second in line, and he goes, ooh, if I would get him in trouble, maybe I could be a king. I wonder, by the story. They don't mention that idea, but it sure does play right into the story. He wants a sister, and he's pining for her. Well, Absalom tells him, why don't you play sick? And then ask your father to have her come over and give you some food. And so he did this. Well, he still wouldn't eat the food. He says, everybody must leave. I can't eat it while everybody's here, evidently. And he gets her alone. And he has his way with her. She begs him not to do it. Says, marry me. Just ask and I will marry you. That's another one of them things. Marrying in the same relationships this time. And no, he goes ahead and takes her. Then he was so in love with her, but he goes ahead and kicks her out, makes her leave. She goes home to her brother. Her brother says, you stay with me. And she stayed with him. From there on out, she's not part of the story. Then the father hears about it. I'm sure it wasn't easy to keep a secret. And he didn't do anything about it. But then, can't speak his name out again. Absalom gets invited somewhere. I don't remember where that was, but he gets invited, and he wants to bring all the brothers with him. Well, the father said, no. I don't think he wants him with the first son. But he finally talks him into it. They all go, and he has his brother killed. And then he runs off to another land. And his father really would have liked to went to him. And because it's his first son, you always remember your first son, firstborn. I mean, those memories come right back. Your second son, you remember them memories, but they're just another memory of memories. But that first one's kind of special. And he'd like to have him back. Oh, I forgot to mention, he didn't do this till 2 years later. So 2 years after the incidents when he killed him. He waited his time, evidently. Of course, he got to wait till his dad gets about so old, too. And he fled, and he stayed gone for 3 years. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Anyway, I might have got that wrong. Let's see. I was thinking 3 years, but maybe I got it wrong in my head. Okay. Anyway, we'll leave that out. Okay. And Absalom returns. Yeah, he was there 3 years. I was right. I glanced at something and said 3 years. I had to remember what I had put down there. Joab, the commander of the army, talks the king into bringing his son home. Yeah, but he says, I'm not going to have anything to do with him. He can come home. But he's got to stay in his house. Got to stay at his house. And Joab uses a woman and kind of some trickery to get him, tells him a story about her, and then she relates it to his son, and and then he brings in the prophet, and she gets him. He gets him to bring him home, and then he's home. He lives 2 years in Jerusalem, doesn't see his father. And he couldn't even get Joab to come over and see him about it. So he lights his barley field on fire. And Joab was a little hot-footed about that. He comes over to talk to him. And finally we make arrangements that the king kisses Absalom. I'm going to get it yet. Anyway, he takes him back. And then the next thing he does, he starts going out along the road on the way into town and starts sympathizing with everybody. He starts working himself to get a lot of friends and say, oh, I could fix that, or I could do this. He can't do it, but if he had the power, he'd do it. And he worked on the people of Israel to make him look really good compared to the king. And he worked on it and worked on it. And then he says, well, I want to go somewhere else, and I want to go to this other town, and because I made a vow to God. Tells his father. And he says, okay, go in peace, go on, do what you need to do. Well, then he starts working a little harder on it. He gets a lot more people on his side, and he's ready to go. He's got the military might to do it, and he heads for the king. And the king flees because he's afraid he'll kill him. And the king does his fleeing, and he gets a lot of help when he flees from some people. And later on, let's see, love it when I kick about 12 pages over. Okay, and there we go. David, one guy brings him as he's fleeing. They're walking, evidently. And he brings food and donkeys for them to ride. And later on, he is rewarded. David rewards the people that helped him. And the ones that cursed him, let's put it this way, they didn't have a good end to their lives.
The young son that's trying to take over the kingdom is kind of like a smooth-talking politician.
Oh yeah. They talk about that in his.
Running in New York is
And
really smooth, promising everything.
yeah, they promise you everything. You know, it's like when they want elected, they'll promise you the world.
We'll give you anything and everything. They know what you want or desire, and will promise that to you, even though they can't fulfill it.
Yes. And I've seen enough elections, I get it. Yeah, I've seen enough elections, I get that. David, they don't even talk about him asking God what to do in this. At points in times he does. But tell David. Oh yeah, there was a little. He left people. He left a man to say, "Oh, you're king now. I will be here for you." And he was somebody that guy respected, and they played the tricks and sent messages, and he realized that he was going to go after him, and so David went on across the river, the only big river there, and went off in that direction. Finally, he decided he crossed the river and chased after him. And David put his men together and into 3 groups, and his head of his army was part of them. You got to remember that young man had, they talk about his hair, about how much it weighed, and he cut her once a year. It was so heavy because it got too heavy. Even told how many shekels or whatever the measurements that it was. I think it was 100. It weighed a lot. And he was riding a donkey and went underneath a tree and got his hair all caught up in the tree and was hanging there. And Joab, which was the head of the armies, David had went and told him to be careful with him, don't hurt him, bring him back. And he was his son. So Joab grabbed 4 spears and drove them right through him. Because one of the men he told to go get him, go kill him, and no, I heard him talk. I heard David talk to you about this. No, we can't do this. No, it happened. And then they sent word that he had passed away. There's another guy that ran to and told him that the war was over, basically. But he didn't know what happened to the kid. He didn't want to tell the bad news. And the next guy told the bad news. And David went and mourned. When Joab showed up and says, hey, quit mourning. Get out by the gate. Congratulate your troops. Your troops have fought hard for you. You must congratulate them. You're going to need them. We're not back there yet, basically. And David thought that was good advice. He went out there and sat and congratulated his troops instead of sitting in sackcloth. Then he returns. And Judah was a big part of his return. They said all the men were in agreement, and they all went and escorted him. Well, that got a kind of a riling between all the different tribes, because they were escorting him, and they didn't wait for them, and they would have helped escort him, and it started a rile. And that continued on. That's probably what got another son to come up and try to make, let's see, I got to remember his name. Absalom's gone. I remember the name now. Okay, David returns to Judah. Okay. And he has, it talks about the enemies. We continue on. We're up to, I probably better get to reading. Here's 20. Okay. Okay, we're going to skip through that. Not skipping anything much. It's about him coming up from Judah and how Judah escorted him. And David has always been, Judah has been his main thing. 3. Okay, where do I want to pick up? This is a lot of stuff. And to finish today with it, we're going to skip over some of the small people that cursed him, and when he left and he met him, one of the people cursed him when he left, and when he met him, he come back and said, oh, I'm sorry, basically. And David said, for now, no, nothing's going to happen to you, basically. And several of them, he didn't do much to begin with to them. Oh, yes, here's another thing they got into. I forgot about this one. This is about a people that Saul gave a bad time to, and David had never did nothing with it, and they asked for, can you believe, 7 males so they could kill them and kill them. And there was a drought at the time in that area, and they laid them out on some thing, and one person watched them the whole time and wouldn't let any animals or anything touch them, and until it rained, and it was over. David, that was an interesting thing. I don't know why that's thrown in the middle, but it's just a story about that. You can read it more. It's in 21. War against the Philistines. Battle of Philistines. They came back and started warring again. Once again, the battle between the Philistines and the Israelites. David went down with his men and fought against the Philistines. But David was getting to be an older man. And evidently he had circulation problems because he was cold in his old age. And two of his men had to come save him from one guy. And his men decided at that point in time, you're not going out to battle with us no more. We can't lose our light. We can't lose you. So from there on out, he didn't go out and battle. He started showing his age. I don't know his age at this point in time, but I hate it when this thing does that. Anyway, 20 is a chapter of songs that David run, praise songs. 22. 23 is his warriors. And it gives all his warriors and mighty warriors and all sorts of things through there. Not really worth going through, just names and what they did. Not to say it's nice that they got put in here. And we're up to David's last words, and then David's mighty warriors. This would have been the last thing he had written, probably. David enrolls the fighting men. In other words, he sends Joab out to check how many warriors he has throughout the whole state. Anybody remember what happens? What would God not want you to do? The man that took, I forget how big the army was, and took it down to 300 so they could attack, so you'd know God was the one doing it. Would you think he'd look kindly to how many warriors do I have? You know, we boast, I have this many warriors. No, he didn't look kindly to it. And as soon as David did it, he goes, I've sinned. Well, he might be looking for him now. I've sinned. What do I do? And God gave him 3 alternatives. Let's see, what was the prophet's name at that time? I got that pegged because the prophet changes here. G-A-D, Gad is a prophet at this time. And Gad comes back and tells him, you got 3 choices. God gave you 3 choices. Okay. They shall come for 3 years. Famine on the land for 3 years. Or 3 months of fleeing from your enemies while they plunder you. Or 3 days of plagues. So, what did David say about that? Well, he didn't want to him be put in man's hands. In other words, don't let my enemy do that. I don't want that. I don't want to be let men decide what they're doing. I guess he put himself, his mercy went upon God, and he said, you do whatever you want. That's up to you. I will take your decision. Because he knew God was a merciful God. And he got the plagues. And the plagues were going pretty heavy. 70,000 of the people from Dan to Beersheba died. And when the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, Lord relented concerning that. And David seen the angel on the threshing floor, it mentions. And David, I've sinned. Let your hand fall on my family. That's what he asked of God. So David went up to the threshing floor to build an altar. If I remember right, the prophet come and told him to do this. And he goes up to the threshing floor, and the guy that owns the threshing floor said, he says, well, I want to buy your threshing floor, and I've got stuff to sacrifice, and I need to do this. I need to make an altar here. And the guy says, no, you don't pay me nothing for my threshing floor. It's yours. I got cows. They're yours. Sacrifice them. It's all yours. I give it to you. And he says, no, I can't. There'd be no meaning in me sacrificing something I didn't spend money on. I didn't pay for. I am going to pay you for this. So he paid him for it. And he sacrificed there. And that was the end of it. But you know, it's true. Something you do for free, that you get for free. Oh, I hate it when it does this. There. Come on. I'm going to go to 24. Okay. Oh, now we switch over to Kings. I'll mention about Kings like I mentioned about... Yeah, they weren't following him very well. Yeah. Not happy. You know the old saying, an unhappy wife makes you unhappy. Well, an unhappy God's going to make you unhappy. It's going to happen. In this case, they didn't a lot of times. Yeah, and you know, it probably hurt his heart real bad, because it hurt his heart when he killed Bathsheba's husband, that others died during it. He cared about his country. He cared about him. He should have thought of that before he did what he did. But, yeah, life is, we do make mistakes in our lives. But God will forgive us. But those mistakes sometimes will have consequences. Even consequences we can't change. Well, I'm going to speed up a little bit because we're getting towards the end. Okay, we got one more son. He'd be the next in line. And he set himself up as king. He went in and he got Joab, head of his military, and I think it was one priest, without getting completely down here. Maybe it was a priest. Let's see. Yeah, a priest. And he got way enough support to become king. And Bathsheba was, let's see, were we Nathan now for the prophet? I can't remember. Well, let's see here. Nathan. Yeah, Nathan is a prophet. And he didn't invite Nathan. He didn't invite another that could. And Nathan went in and talked to Solomon's mother and told her what to do. Go before David. This is after he was bedridden a lot. and went in and talked to him, and he told him everything to say to make it work, to get him wound up and get him to say, all right, your son will be king. So David went ahead and told Nathan to go ahead and get him on his mule and take him down to Bashir, wherever it was, town, and get him anointed and bring him back up and set him on the throne and blow the trumpets. Get everybody wound up about it. Well, the other guy's having this dinner banquet for the new king, and they hear all this noise. And somebody comes and says, hey, have you heard what's happening? And he goes, oh, and all the people just suddenly scattered and left the banquet. And Solomon asked for wisdom when he got in a dream. God said, you ask for anything and I'll give it to you. Wow, wouldn't that be, what would you ask for? Well, he's young. He talks about himself being young. And it was, Kathy even looked up there, I seen it too, that Solomon could have been as young as 15, could have been 20 to 30. They don't really know. But he called himself young. And he says, well, I need wisdom for this so I can rule effectively. And God thought he was great. He didn't ask for long life. He didn't ask for so his enemies not be bothering him. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for anything else. He just asked for wisdom so he could watch over his people. Wow, God thought that was pretty cool. I would think that was pretty cool. If my kid asked for something way off of what I thought it was and something that he really needed, but I couldn't probably talk him into it. Now David dies. Before he dies, he tells Solomon, okay, here's some people. They need to have a bad ending. And here's some people that are really good people. They helped me when I left, like the person that gave him the donkeys and the food and all that stuff, and the people that helped him in the house. Take care of them. And Solomon took his advice. He immediately got rid of Joab, which used to be the head of the military. He ran in and grabbed the horns on the altar. You're supposedly safe when you grab the horns on the altar. That's written in the Bible. I can't remember just where that is, but that's one safe place to go, is go in and grab the horns on the altar. And no one can kill you. Well, Solomon said, I'll ask for forgiveness later. I asked for forgiveness, but go kill him right where he stands. He said to kill him where he stands, and kill him where he stands. So he killed him. He went through and got rid of everybody. And his opponent, his other brother, he came to the mother and says, I want to marry this certain woman. Now, I do not know what marrying that certain woman would have got him, but she thought that when she asked Solomon for him, he goes, God forgive me, he's going to die. Now, I don't know, I didn't look up who this woman was. I was towards my end of my looking at it, and evidently she could have given him great power. And he had him killed. He cemented his kingdom, well, his throne, by getting rid of all the people that would give him trouble. And then the wisdom. He had this wisdom. And his first case of using it, probably most of you remember, was with the two women. I believe they called them prostitutes. Yeah. Anyway, the two women that lived together. One of them had a baby, and then the other one had a baby 3 days later. Well, the one claimed to had the baby first, said that the other one laid on her child and killed it. So she swapped childs on her. Because when she woke in the morning, she looked at the child and knew it wasn't hers. Well, you just had her word because nobody else was in the house. And anybody remember what Solomon did? He says, go give me a sword. We'll cut the child in half. Each one can have half. Oh no, the true mother said, nope, I'm done. Just give her the child. I don't want the child. I don't want the child. Solomon says, give the child to her. That's the mother. She'd do anything to keep the child alive. And he's right. And in the end of this, it talks about how great his wisdom was. He talked about animals, all sorts of stuff. His wisdom was amazing. There was people that came, well, in the next chapter probably. There's people that came to see his wisdom. Of course, the first thing Solomon did was make peace with the Pharaoh of Egypt by marrying one of his daughters. Started a tradition. He had a lot of them before it was over. He married daughters of all the kings around him. So he made peace in the area. He didn't have to fight. He was more an ambassador than a warrior. And they still did not have had not built the temple yet. So they were still sacrificing on the high places. Surprising thing that we'll find in the next chapter, he built his palace first. Had it done first. Well, so this is where we leave it. New king, new challenges for the new king. So David was a great man. He brought this country to power. Solomon continued the power. But he did that. But he was a man of blood. Sword always left in his house. Let's say a short prayer before we quit. And thank you, everybody. Lord, my God, my Father in heaven, I thank you for the day you give us. Thank you for the message you brought. Lord, let us remember to bring it to you first. When we do something wrong, let us take it to you quickly. My Lord, my God, I thank you for all you do. In Jesus I pray. Amen. Thank you, everybody. I'm a little better.